You buy a used car for 1,000 different reasons. For me, it was the silence. The silence in my apartment after Maya left was a physical thing, a heavy woolen blanket that smothered all the sound and light. I needed an engine to drown it out. I needed to be moving, even if I had nowhere to go. The car was a 5-year-old Blue Sedan. Nothing special. It had that faint, universal smell of old coffee and synthetic pine from the little tree air freshener dangling from the rear view. The salesman, a guy named Dave with a too-tight tie, gave me the spiel. One owner, meticulous maintenance records, a real cream puff. I signed the papers without haggling. I just wanted the keys. I wanted to be somewhere that wasn't my own head. The first few days, I just drove. I'd point the car down a highway and go, the radio blasting static just to fill the space. The car handled well. It was quiet, smooth. It felt cared for. There was a strange comfort in that. Someone else had once loved this machine. It was on the third day, heading aimlessly towards the coast, that I noticed the GPS. It was an older, built-in model, not the kind you use your phone for. On a whim, I tapped the screen. It flickered to life. The home address was still programmed in 1247 Willow Lane, a part of some suburb I'd never been to, and then I saw it. In the saved destinations, there was one that wasn't an address. It was just a name. Our spot. The cursor hovered over it. My thumb trembled just above the screen. It felt intrusive, like reading someone else's diary. This wasn't my memory. This was a ghost in the machine. I almost cleared it. I almost reset the whole system back to factory settings and erased the last traces of the stranger who owned this car before me. But I didn't. The silence in my life was too loud. This was a voice, even if it wasn't meant for me. I tapped it. The screen changed. A route began to calculate, a thin blue line stretching from my current location, weaving through the city, out into the wooded hills north of town. The estimated arrival time glowed softly. 1 hour, 17 minutes. What was our spot? A lookout point? A restaurant? The scene of a proposal? A breakup? My own life was a blank map. This was a path, however borrowed. A destination. I put the car in drive and followed the line. The city slowly bled away into suburbs, then into open country. The road began to climb, twisting through forests of tall, silent pines. The air coming through the vents grew cooler, cleaner. I turned off the radio. The only sound was the hum of the tires on asphalt and the quiet, insistent guidance of the GPS. In 500 feet, turn left. I turned onto a narrower road, barely more than a lane, paved but cracked and weathered. Your destination is on the right. I slowed, my heart doing a strange, nervous patter. There was no house, no sign, just a small, unpaved pull-off carved into the trees. I guided the Blue Sedan onto the gravel and turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and profound. It was a different silence from my apartment. This one was natural, filled with the whisper of wind in the pine needles and the distant call of a bird. I got out. The air was crisp. Our spot was a cliff's edge. Not a dramatic sheer drop, but a gentle grassy slope that fell away to reveal a breathtaking vista of the entire river valley below. The city was a distant, glittering smudge. Up here it looked peaceful, manageable. There was a single, flat-topped boulder at the edge, worn smooth by time and, I imagined, by use. I walked over and sat on it. It was still warm from the sun. This was it. This was the place someone had loved enough to save in their GPS. I tried to picture them. A couple, probably. Maybe they came here to watch the sunset, to talk, to escape. I felt like a ghost haunting someone else's memory. It was peaceful, but it was a sad peace. It underscored my own loneliness. This wasn't my spot. It was theirs. I sat there until the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The city lights began to twinkle on, one by one, like stars waking up. As dusk settled, I stood to leave, brushing the dust from my jeans. That's when I saw it, a glint of something metallic, half buried in the soft earth right next to the boulder. I knelt down. It was a key, an old, tarnished silver key, tied to a small, circular fob. The fob wasn't for a car. It was blank. I wiped the dirt off it. There were no markings, no logos, just a key. Had the previous owner lost this? Was this part of our spot? I pocketed it. It felt like a clue, the first piece of a puzzle I hadn't known I was trying to solve. The drive back was different. The silence in the car was no longer empty. It was filled with questions. Who were you? What was this place to you? And what does this key open? I had gone looking for a distraction from my own broken story. Instead, I had found the first page of someone else's, and I couldn't stop myself from turning it. The key sat on my coffee table for 2 days. It was a small, inert piece of metal, but it exerted a gravitational pull. I'd pick it up, feel its cool weight in my palm, and wonder. A safety deposit box? A storage unit? A diary? I tried to distract myself. I went back to work at the architecture firm, staring at CAD drawings until my eyes blurred. I called a friend, but the conversation felt hollow, the words bouncing off the new, strange preoccupation in my mind. My own problems, the wreckage of my relationship with Maya, the quiet despair of my 30s, suddenly seemed less immediate than the mystery of the silver key. I had to know. On the third day, I did something I knew was crossing a line. The dealership had emailed me a digital copy of the bill of sale. Scrolling down, I found the previous owner's name and address, redacted for privacy except for the city. The name was there, clear as day. Eleanor Vance. 1247 Willow Lane. The home address still programmed into the GPS. It felt wrong. It was stalker behavior. But the pull was too strong. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. It felt like a responsibility. Like I'd been given a message in a bottle and I was the only one on the shore. I got back in the Blue Sedan. This time, I didn't type our spot. I pressed home. The GPS lit up, charting a familiar course back through the city into a quiet, older neighborhood of well-kept bungalows and sprawling oak trees. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest as I turned onto Willow Lane. I was invading a stranger's life. I slowed as I approached 1247. It was a charming, craftsman-style house with a deep porch and a neatly trimmed lawn. But something was off. There was a real estate sign staked into the front yard. Sold. My heart sank. She was gone. I parked across the street, my hands clenching the steering wheel. What was I doing here? The trail was cold. I was a fool, chasing ghosts. Just as I was about to drive away, an older woman emerged from the house next door, carrying a watering can. She started tending to a row of vibrant petunias along her walkway. An impulse seized me. Before I could talk myself out of it, I got out of the car and walked across the street. "Excuse me?" I called out, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet street. She turned, shielding her eyes from the sun. She had a kind, weathered face. I'm sorry to bother you," I began, scrambling for a lie. "I'm a friend of Eleanor's, from out of town. I was hoping to surprise her, but—" I gestured lamely at the sold sign. The woman's friendly expression softened into one of profound sadness. "Oh, honey, you haven't heard?" The knot in my chest tightened. "Heard what?" "Eleanor passed away. Almost 3 months ago now. Cancer. It was very quick at the end. The world seemed to tilt. The Blue Sedan. The one owner. The meticulous care. She wasn't just a previous owner. She was deceased. I was driving a dead woman's car. I'm so sorry," I stammered, the guilt now a hot, acidic wave. "I didn't know." "It's a shame," the neighbor, who introduced herself as Betty, continued, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. "Such a sweet soul. So young. She was a writer, you know. Wrote those beautiful travel memoirs. She loved that car. drove it all over the country for her research. A writer. The pieces began to click into place, forming a much sadder picture. Was she married? I asked, thinking of our Spot. Betty shook her head, her face clouding with something that looked like anger. No, she was engaged once, a long time ago, to a man named David, but he left, just a few weeks before the wedding. Broke her heart. She never really got over it, I don't think. She lived here alone after that, just her and her stories. David, our Spot, took on a new, heartbreaking dimension. It wasn't a current refuge, it was a shrine, a place she probably still visited to remember, or maybe to forget. I can't believe she's gone, I said, and the words were true. I felt a genuine, sharp grief for this woman I had never met. The family cleared everything out last month, Betty said. The estate sale was difficult to watch, all her beautiful things picked over by strangers. She looked at me, a sudden curiosity in her eyes. How did you know Ellie? The lie felt too heavy now. I gestured weakly to the blue sedan across the street. I bought her car. Betty's eyes widened, then filled with a strange, knowing light. You have Ellie's car? She took a step closer, her voice dropping to a confidential whisper. Then you should talk to Arthur. Arthur? Her brother. He was in charge of the estate. He was devastated. He lives over on Maple, number 42. He was so angry about the sale. He couldn't bear to be here. He might want to know you have it, that it went to someone who... She trailed off, looking me up and down as if searching for a sign. Who seems to care? I thanked her, my mind reeling. Eleanor. Ellie. A writer with a broken heart. A life cut short. And I was now the curator of her final, unanswered messages. I drove to Maple Street, the key feeling like a brand in my pocket. Arthur. He would have the answers. He would know what the key was for. Arthur? Number 42 was a small, tidy duplex. I walked up the path, my heart hammering. I was no longer just an intruder. I was a messenger. I had a piece of his sister, and I needed to give it back. I rang the bell. The door opened to a man in his late 50s, with tired, red-rimmed eyes and Ellie's same gentle brow. Arthur Vance? I asked, my voice shaky. Yes, he said, his tone guarded. I took a deep breath. My name is Ben. I bought your sister's car. I held up the tarnished silver key. And I think I found something that belongs to you. He looked at the key, and then at me. His face, which had been a mask of grief, crumpled into something else entirely, a look of stunned, disbelieving recognition. Oh my God, he breathed, his hand reaching out to take the key. His fingers trembled as they closed around it. You found it. After all this time, you actually found it. He looked from the key to my face, and his eyes filled with tears. You'd better come in, he said, his voice thick with emotion. There's something you need to hear. Arthur's living room was a quiet, masculine space, but a large, beautiful portrait of Eleanor, Ellie, smiling with a sparkle in her eyes, hung over the fireplace. It was a shock to see her vibrant and alive. He didn't offer me a drink. He just sank into an armchair, clutching the key as if it were a holy relic. She talked about leaving a message, he began, his voice rough with emotion. In her last few weeks, when the pain was bad, she'd get delirious. She'd say things like, David needs to know, and the key is in the map. We thought it was the medication talking, the painkillers. She was always so organized, we figured she'd left a proper letter. But when we cleaned out the house, there was nothing for him. Nothing at all. We thought she'd just let it go. He looked down at the key in his hand. This is the key to a train station locker. Downtown. They've been renovating for years, but a few of the old original lockers are still there. This is for one of them. My breath caught. A locker. A message. David, I said softly. Her fiancé. Arthur's face hardened. The man who shattered her. Left her a note, can you believe it? A note, 3 weeks before the wedding. Said he wasn't cut out for that life. He joined some eco-engineering group, went to work on water purification projects in remote parts of the world. We never heard from him again. Ellie, she never dated after that. She just buried herself in her work, in her travels. This car. She drove it to every place they'd ever planned to go together. It was her way of, I don't know, keeping him with her. The depth of her love and her loss was a physical weight in the room. The GPS wasn't just a navigational tool, it was a map of a broken heart. Our spot was their spot. She must have gone back there one last time, I whispered, thinking of the key buried in the dirt. She must have left it for him to find. Arthur nodded, a single tear tracing a path down his cheek. She never stopped loving him, even though she should have, even though he didn't deserve it. He looked at me, his gaze intense. You have to understand, Ben. Finding this, it's like hearing her voice again. It's her last wish. She wanted him to know. He held the key out to me. I stared at it. What? No. Arthur, this is for you. For your family. It's not, he said firmly. It's for David, and you're the one who found it. You're the one she led to it. You drove her car to their spot. Don't you see? She chose you. The idea was insane, preposterous, and yet, sitting in that quiet room, with the portrait of Ellie smiling down on us, it felt destined, inevitable. I took the key. Finding David was the next impossible task. Arthur had nothing. No address, no phone number. Just a name and an old defunct email. David Foster. But I had resources. As an architect, I knew how to find people, to trace the invisible lines of infrastructure and ownership. I spent nights at my computer, fueled by a purpose I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't just solving a mystery anymore. I was fulfilling a promise. I tracked him through professional journals, through obscure references to water treatment projects and NGOs. He was a ghost, but he left a digital footprint in the most remote places. Finally, I found a recent photo attached to a humanitarian award given to a team in a small, mountainous region of Guatemala. It was him. Older, his face lined and weathered, his hair streaked with gray. But it was David, the man who broke Ellie's heart. According to the article, he was due back in the States for a fundraising conference in Chicago in 2 weeks. It was my only shot. The night before I left, I drove the Blue Sedan to our spot one last time. I sat on the boulder as the stars came out. I didn't feel like a ghost anymore. I felt like a bridge, between a love that never died and a man who never knew. I found him, Ellie, I said to the quiet night air. I'll make sure he gets your message. The wind rustled the pines, and for a moment, the silence felt like an answer. I took a train to Chicago. It felt more appropriate than flying. I checked into a cheap hotel near the conference center. The next day, I blended in with the crowd of aid workers and philanthropists, my heart thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. And then I saw him, standing alone near a coffee urn, looking older and more tired than his photo, staring into his cup with a profound loneliness that mirrored my own. I walked up to him, the key a cold, hard certainty in my fist. "David Foster?" I asked. He looked up, his eyes a startling clear blue. Wary. "Yes?" "My name is Ben. I was a friend of Eleanor Vance." The name hit him like a physical blow. He actually staggered back a step, his face draining of all color. The coffee sloshed in his cup. "Ellie?" he whispered, the name a prayer, a curse. Is she okay?" It was my turn to deliver the blow. "I'm so sorry, David. Ellie passed away 3 months ago." He made a sound, a choked animal gasp of pain, and leaned heavily against the wall. All the strength, the rugged composure evaporated, leaving a raw, broken man. "No," he breathed. "No, that's not. She can't be. She never stopped loving you," I said, the words simple and direct. She left something for you. In your spot. I opened my hand and showed him the tarnished silver key. He stared at it, and then a sob racked his entire body. He recognized it instantly. He knew exactly what it was. "She wanted you to have this," I said softly, pressing the key into his hand. "She wanted you to know." I didn't wait for his answer. I didn't need to. I had delivered the message. My part in their story was over. I turned and walked away, leaving him alone in the crowded hall, clutching the final, painful words of the woman he had left behind, but had never, ever forgotten. The train ride home was a blur. The frantic energy that had sustained me for weeks was gone, leaving a deep, resonant emptiness. I had been so consumed by Ellie and David's story that I hadn't had a single thought for my own. I arrived back in my city as the sun was setting. I took a cab from the station, too tired to face the drive. But as the cab pulled onto my street, I saw it. The Blue Sedan was parked right where I'd left it. A different kind of pull drew me to it. I paid the driver and walked over, resting my hand on its cool, familiar roof. It wasn't just a car anymore. It was a vessel. It had carried me out of my own sorrow and into the heart of a great, tragic love. It had given me a purpose when I had none. I got in. The smell of old coffee and pine was still there, but it was different now. It was the smell of Ellie's travels, her research, her memories. It was the smell of a life, fully lived, even with its heartbreak. I sat there for a long time in the growing dark, not going anywhere. The GPS screen was dark. I reached out and touched it. It lit up, the map waiting for a destination. I thought about David, alone in a hotel room in Chicago, holding a key to a locker that held a message he was probably too afraid to read. I thought about Arthur, finally having a piece of his sister's final puzzle solved. And I thought about Ellie, a woman of words who had used a machine and a key to send one last silent message across time. She had loved so deeply, so faithfully. Even in her pain, she had wanted to reach out. She hadn't let bitterness win. My own problems with Maya, the quiet failure of our relationship, suddenly seemed small. Not insignificant, but manageable. Ellie's story hadn't just been a distraction. It had been a lesson in resilience, in the enduring power of love, even when it's not returned the way you hope. I started the car. The engine purred to life, loyal and steady. I had spent weeks navigating by someone else's saved destinations. Home, our spot. It was time to make my own. I tapped the screen. I went to Add New Destination. The cursor blinked, waiting. Where did I want to go? I didn't know. Not yet. But for the first time in a long time, the blank space didn't feel like an emptiness. It felt like a possibility. I typed one word, a starting point. Coffee. The GPS calculated a route to the nearest decent coffee shop. It wasn't a cliff's edge overlooking a valley. It wasn't a dramatic, life-changing destination. But it was a start. It was a first step on a map that was mine again. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. The blue line on the screen stretched out before me, a path forward illuminated not by the ghost of someone else's past, but by the faint, flickering hope of my own future. I had bought a used car to escape my silence. I never imagined it would give me back my voice. The GPS didn't just hold a message that changed everything for David and Arthur. It held a message that saved me. A message that sometimes the way out of your own story is to get lost in someone else's. And in helping two lost souls find a piece of their ending, I found the courage to write my new beginning. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's justice wrapped in grace. Silent revenge.